things that are on that property, that shed there, was actually, there was a trailer there, and it was destroyed in the
This shed here.
The one that, see the,
By the miniature railroad?
no,
Oh.
just run the phone over here.
Right here. This guy,
There's
okay.
a box trailer, and there was a trailer in front, this was actually an addition, the section house was there.
That was there.
Yep.
This was or wasn't?
The siding wasn't, the siding was built.
So you bought this property in 1990, why? Or for what reason?
Sold the railroad equipment.
In 1990, were you considered a public transportation or just?
I'm guessing that a railroad, it was pretty much always considered public transportation. And the railroad actually started in 1983. It was actually initially used in 1982 under a one-year lease by Kent Reeves and then incorporated into the Catskill Mountain Railroad in 1983.
When the sidings were built, was permission to build them given to CMRR or the county?
CMRR built, and like I said, it was prior to the survey, and we were probably working off of maps that weren't as accurate, which is why it ended up splitting it down.
Do you know about when that took place, the sidings?
I'd say probably early 90s. It was probably as soon as we acquired the property.
Well, this siding that's split in half was meant for storage, actually.
Yeah, well, that's what we've been using for years.
Except it just happened to be half and half.
Harry, why did Kingston have you store your cars in that railroad yard to use for years?
Because they wanted to build a trail out of it, making a linear park so that people can get from uptown Kingston to the plaza. So all of our equipment is basically parked out in the open right now and has been subject to vandalism. We've also set locomotive horns and we've had to repaint them with cars.
I know you said that county won't sell you any property or let you use this siding. Would they let you move it,
Would they let me?
relocate the siding?
It's a possibility. I mean, it's not them doing them any good. But at this point, that's a whole other conversation.
How did this boxcar get off the rail?
It's a panel track. It's a panel track. Panel track is basically a section of track that doesn't go anywhere. And we built that panel track, and that boxcar came in on the truck,
Oh,
and we put it there.
so it didn't come.
No. But that will become siding number one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Harry, let's direct some questions to Warren now.
Okay, thank you.
I'm done.
Okay.
Now, I think Warren you said, I think my question was, why do we even need a permit? And you said because it's in a floodplain? You need a permit anyway.
Impermanent.
Period.
And what I might remind the board, as Harry has stated, this is basically, this entire permit is based on the fact that they need to remove their cars. This is not, and the end result is not to be permanent storage. They need a place to store the cars so they can work to remove them from the town on their property and not on county property. I might also remind them that these vehicles are not of a size that you can back a truck in like you would a flatbed wrecker, haul your car up on it and drive away. So it's not an overnight proposition. Neither is it an inexpensive proposition. So what CMMR, mostly Harry, has presented to me is that their proposal is to move the cars onto the rails and then vacate the property. 6 months, 8 months, but there is at no point in time are they suggesting they're going to leave them there. I might also add that the amount of money that these particular are worth, just if they were to abandon them and had to scrap them, okay, is far beyond, you know, what if the town ended up with it, the town would be responsible, then they would pay for itself. But they're not going to abandon, you know, several $100,000 worth of equipment and lease it. Whether they go to someplace else in Ulster or they go to another county, their proposal is to remove them. They're not going to, you know, there's no point in leaving them. You know, it's a cost that to abandon them that I don't feel that they want to incur.
But it has nothing to do with floodplain.
If they were to propose to leave them there,
Okay.
permanent basis, then that would be an entirely different thing that would deal with the floodplain. If they put the cars there and they remove the cars as they propose and everything else, what's left behind, the railroad, the tracks, the ballast, the ties and all, in the floodplain, does not adversely affect it. Because there's no point are they placing anything in the floodway, it's in the flood fringe. We have no zoning codes for railroad tracks. We have no floodplain management for railroad tracks.
But the whole place is in the floodplain.
No. Portions of the property, the whole place is portions of the property in the special flood hazard area. Mostly flood fringe, not floodway.
The museum is not in the floodplain?
No, the museum's in the special flood hazard area, which is why the building was built as it was. And they just spent money to do some remediation work for future events. Open some channelways to prevent future damage.
So none of this proposal has any buildings proposed?
No buildings, no maintenance, no repair. They want to use it as a temporary storage facility so that they can safely remove their equipment without infringing on anyone else's property.
So what category did you put this in order for it to come before us for a special permit?
Well, you're always supposed to read the zoning code and find the closest application you can find for it. And at some point in time, you know, railroad is public transportation. They were transporting the public.
The town attorney's already determined that they're not a public transportation authority.
It's not a public hearing, so.
It doesn't mean you can provide incorrect information though.
We'll decipher that. So that's what you
Well, that
mean
was
by
mentioned, but I don't see
formally.
any letter. Mr. Butterfuss's letter mentioned,
Mr. Walensky's letter mentioned it.
we didn't get that. Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
It was attached to my letter, sir.
Oh, we didn't see that.
That determination's already been made by the town attorney.
Okay. I don't see it.
It was attached to
and
the...
the Clark, the zoning board, went before the zoning board for a special use.
Went to the zoning board for a use variance because they wanted to build a building and work on equipment. And that application was withdrawn.
So if it already has a spur on it, why do they have to come to us to build a second spur?
The spur's not on their property.
Well, it's not half on their property.
They can't use it.
I understand they can't use it, that's not my question.
Okay?
The question is, it already has a spur on it, that property. Half a spur,
Actually,
right?
the only reason they even came to us was because they were in a floodplain. So they asked for a floodplain development permit. And as far as FEMA regulations are concerned, they can put ballots, they can put ties, they can put rails in there. All of that falls within the FEMA regulations for floodplain development, because it does not adversely affect the floodplain. It's what the proposed use beyond was where we're at now. The installation of the tracks, the ties, and the ballast is not, it's landscaping. So it does not fall into the town zoning or the building department for building permits, just for floodplain development. And that's what he presented to me when I issued the initial floodplain development permit. So it's what they're proposing to do after the rails are in, which is the temporary storage to remove, as we've said.
Well, I think Alan had a point. They already have a spur, whether it's usable or not. It's a railroad spur on their property. Half of it.
Right. So you're asking what? Why they're here?
Yeah.
They're here asking for a permit to park, to temporarily park their train cars on their property.
Well, no, but the trains were already parked on their property because they hung over, half the train was on county property and the other half of the train was on their property for all these years.
Well, here's an interesting point too. Most of the stuff that's been down there has been there for more than 30 years and no one has said anything. Until they attempted to move it actually onto their property, now it became a problem. So I don't know where everybody was for the past 30 years.
And
when
we're only
everything was
talking
there.
12 feet difference, right?
Yeah.
I would like to see a way for them to remove these cars. I'm sure the neighbors would like to see the cars removed. It's a great plan, but does it fit within our code to be able to rule?
Well, I
The
think
letter
that,
from Mr. Walensky is referencing rail equipment storage and rail equipment maintenance. And he is correct in stating that neither zoning district permits these uses. That's not what we're here for. We're not for rail equipment maintenance because in the town code, it explicitly states that in either of those, it's prohibited.
Storage.
Public utility or transportation garage or maintenance facility is prohibited everywhere except commercial light industry. And believe me, we tried to find a parcel, commercial light industry, adjacent to the railroad so that they could build their barn, and one does not exist. So that shot down the whole deal with the rail maintenance, the barn and all, so they have graciously removed that entirely. So now they just want to move the cars, take them off the property, vacate the premises. I'm sorry to interrupt.
May I speak?
Yeah.
This is why you've got a zoning board of appeals. There is, I think, your own town attorney has already indicated that this organization does not fit in the category that it is being put into. Your building inspector has indicated he's tried to figure out any number of ways, and the zoning law doesn't speak to it. Those are the kinds of questions that are routinely referred to zoning boards of appeals. This particular use has been on the table for a long time, and I was trying to be delicate. I was kind of surprised that we got economic information from the building inspector about all the ways that if this becomes abandoned, that it's going to be fine for the town to take care of it. There's no analysis from any expert whatsoever as to the value of these things or what it will take to remove them when or if the Casco Mountain Railroad just folds up shop and walks away. but we're still getting ahead of ourselves. Those are all considerations that ought to go into an analysis of whether or not this whole thing makes sense. But the first question you must ask, which is the question which Mr. Brewer asked, what are you doing here? Okay? Do you have jurisdiction over this question? You do not, in my opinion. And if you go ahead and you don't get an opinion from the Zoning Board of Appeals, who has the jurisdiction to make this determination, then you're headed down the wrong path. You really do need to make a determination as to whether or not this application is properly before you. There was one prior attempt and a building permit was issued, which had to be withdrawn. And now we're again trying to go through the back door what we couldn't do through the front door. Please refer this to the Zoning Board of Appeals so you are at least on solid footing if you decide to continue with this inquiry. Until you do that, you're looking for trouble.
Is a building permit?
They're not building it.
Is a building permit required?
It's a
for
use.
rail?
It's a use.
So we don't need a building permit.
They never asked for a building permit.
It's a special use permit based upon their public transportation.
I'm asking Warren, please. Is a building permit required for track?
No.
Okay.
But it is a
was required
special,
for development in a floodplain.
it's a special use permit. The only way they can get is if they're a public transportation facility,
But the
which
way
they
I-
have shown.
The way I look at this is, they've already been using this property for, since, I don't know, 30, 20 some odd years, or 30 years in this use. Because those tracks are halfway on their property. And so the way I see it, it's a hardship that was created because the maps were not correct. But they've already been using a spur on their property to store trains for 30 years.
Yeah, well, their use predates zoning by, I don't know, a century, using the rails since the late 1800s.
Right.
On the county's property.
Not this.
No, there was railroad property in the 1800s.
No,
The
but
county
the
property.
spur,
Yeah.
well, I'm referring to the spur that's halfway on their
Property
property.
now.
The track, the main track is on county property, but part of that spur is on their property. And they've been using that
100 years ago.
for 30 years, and the county hasn't complained, and we haven't complained, and all they want to do is move it over 12 feet so they can get the cars off there. I don't see a problem.
And get the cars out.
And to get them out. And to give them the time to get them out of the town.
Yeah.
And if they don't,
Yeah,
There are
we
consequences.
have to work out some sort of a,
We have a schedule. We're hoping that they'll adhere to the schedule.
Art has a question.
I'm sorry.
Harry, am I correct in assuming that you're going to take these trains, bring them in and put them there until you can find a better place to put them?
Correct.
Okay. So you're going to be bringing them in once, and you're going to be taking them out once?
Correct.
Okay. Here's what I'm reading. And it seems to be the concern of the people that are in opposition to you getting this permit. In order to preserve the status quo, relief of the Phoenicia neighbors from anxiety about the Catskill Mountain Railroad's intended actions, and to prevent the Catskill Mountain Railroad from investing in ballast ties and rails based on an unreasonable expectation that it can use these materials to transport is number one. I'm not certain on what the intent of transport meant in this particular case, whether you're going to be bringing them in, bringing them out, taking them in, taking them out and stuff. But if it's a one-shot deal. The second thing is store. We all agree that yes, you do want to store them there for a certain period of time and then you will take them out and do away with that. And rehabilitate trains, and I don't think that you fellas are gonna be rehabilitating trains and working on them, because you've said that many times, that that's not the intent. And the other railroad equipment, so if you're not going to be transporting these trains and materials in and out, and you're not going to be rehabilitating these trains and other railroad equipment, then the only thing that you're going to be doing is storing them. So we have two of these issues that are the concerns of the Phoenician neighbors. We already answered that question, that's not going to be that. Am I correct?
Correct.
So the only issue that we have is that, I'll put a square on this one instead of a circle, that you want to store them there for a period of time.
Correct.
I just want to say too that I went down to this site and I spent quite a bit of time down there. And before we pass judgment on this, I'd like to say that I'm very happy to see it be cleaned up. The way it was cleaned up, it was done very nicely. That's the only question I have, that for the concerns of the neighbors, two of them have already been answered. Thank you.
I would want to check with our attorney as to what type of guarantees we can forward, conditions we can put forward on schedule of the removal of the cars. Also, as to which authority we actually have with it at this point. Would it need to go before the zoning board?
I can forward those concerns.
I would want to make a decision until I can get legal advice.
We could also say that we could go by their schedule and not to exceed a certain amount of months before the time, because you don't know what's going to happen with weather or if you get the traffic.
If it does exceed,
Well, that way you have to get the legal advice.
It would be nice to have a little cushion. I mean, one of the problems that we have is we did lose our railroad yard in Kingston. So we already have a lot of equipment that's parked where the general public can get at it. And this is just more equipment that we don't really have a good place to put. Right now, our train operation, the only place that we could put it outside of our operating space is above Junior's Auto Body, which is on a hill. And that's not necessarily a very good place to park a train.
But Howard, do you have in mind a place where you will be taking
We
this
do.
equipment?
We have recommended 9 different locations to the county for
Okay.
possible, where we could build
Well,
a
out
yard.
of the county completely?
No, in Kingston, because we have a 5-year permit in Kingston,
Oh, okay.
which this was year 1 of that permit. So we're actually looking at a piece of property now that Dennis Doyle has suggested might be something that would work for us.
Okay.
And if in fact that comes to fruition, then, but that might be a year down the line or something. But the schedule still says that, we will start to move the smaller pieces of equipment that we can put down there. The work equipment, basically work train stuff.
Well, have you looked at this property down in Kingston?
Down in Kingston, we have the maps, and, it's privately owned. We have to start negotiations, see if it's available.
I think we have to find every possible way to solve this problem.
For
This
you,
is a problem.
yes, it is.
And we have to find, we can't just say you can't do things and you can't move the cars. We have to find a way to resolve it
Yeah.
and accommodate the movement of these cars, since there's no track into Kingston. So we have to find some way, especially since you've been there for all these years. Been there for 30 years, 12 feet distance from where you want to put the train. So I can't see how anybody could be concerned about 12 feet distance, because the car's there now, right? The cars are sitting on the track now. You want to move them 12 feet closer to your property. And so you have an existing situation there. And I think we should take that into consideration and make this a temporary or one-year kind of situation to remove the cars and figure out how to do it. And I think we should go to the attorney to find out how we can do this.
Because the way it's stated, in our book here, that I don't think we have the authority right now, but let's check with it.
Well, it's an existing use. We don't want to rezone the property.
No.
It's an existing use. They're using the property now to store their stuff. And they're just asking to move the track, so we have to find out how we could do that for them.
And plus that it's not an operating railroad. It was an operating railroad.
Years ago.
No. And it's also part of the heritage of the Shandaken and the Catskills. And I think it has to be preserved.
I've heard a resolution, it sounds reasonable to me. What's the alternative?
What are they supposed to do with this property?
That's what I don't understand. What is the alternative?
I don't know. What they want them to do with it, put it in their pocket and walk away, I don't know.
I think the unique thing about this is that these are railroad cars that need rails.
Right.
If these were trucks, they could just go
Right.
move these 14 trucks onto their property and park them there. They're just, but these happen to be railroad cars that can't ride on dirt, so they need rails to move them.
I've seen them come in, the
You know,
hearings.
public hearing, this is not a public hearing, we can ask.
Okay,
Be pleasant.
Okay, so we should just close it. Go ahead.
Mr. Brewer?
I mean, you can read it.
The railroad does have a permit in Kingston, and there's no reason they can't store their trains in Kingston.
We'll make that determination.
That's what they propose. They
And how
have
would
to
they
move
get
them
there?
to get there.
by truck.
Or
I've seen
or
them.
from the mountain, or from the mountain.
Right now, we're not gonna,
No.
we're just looking at all the facts right now, we can. And, so, we have a motion that we, send this to our attorney for determination on, what authority we might have to rule on anything, or
Yes.
whether we need to send it to the zoning board for a definition of,
And enforce
I
it.
make a
That's on
motion
the-
to talk to the attorney first.
in regards to this. Okay.
In regard to this.
Second.
John?
You second
John
it?
seconded.
John second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to ask a question. Who requested the interpretation from the town attorney as to public transportation facility?
What's that?
Who requested
Who
it?
requested it?
I don't know. Who requested it?
The ZBA?
No.
Who requested?
The interpretation.
Well, somebody said it was attached to Mr. Farfas's letter.
Mr. Walensky's letter in the ZBA matter was attached to my letter.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
He's
think
the
we got it.
attorney for the ZBA, so the ZBA must have requested that, huh?
The ZBA requested it during,
But was that for the other,
There's-
the other ones?
the railroad,
Yeah.
the railroad indicated during the ZBA hearings for the use variance that they could do whatever they wanted because they were a public transportation facility. Mr. Walensky but was asked by the ZBA to make a determination as to the accuracy of that statement, and he disagreed with it. That letter was what was attached to my letter I sent to you earlier.
As far as I understood, Harry, that went from the zoning board to their attorney.
I remember.
No.
I was wondering if it was a new request,
No, it was from your previous,
because the previous request was
Application.
for an interpretation of local law, local railroad law, New York State law.
all right.
business?
Yeah.
Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.